What's going on, everybody? We are in our pre-show right now. Got the drinks ready.
Yes, sir.
We are pretty pumped tonight. I don't want to spoil too much. It's pre-show. If you haven't seen one of our shows before, it's pretty simple. You can actually join live. It's actually up on the screen right now. There's actually some instructions there on how to get into our Discord, but we're getting fancy. We're getting fancy now. If you type in the chat and you just put !Discord, because we're so fancy, it will actually give you this cool message and allow you to join our Discord. So if you want to come on the show live tonight and talk some Pantheon tanking or just anything in general, as always, you're welcome to. If you're catching us on demand, we're about 2 minutes right now from this moment of going live. So on demand, you can skip ahead 2 minutes. You'll see the intro. We have an exciting video to show as we intro in for our co-host tonight. I'm actually pretty excited here.
Yes, sir.
Coffee and rum chata. Tell you, it gets me through a lot of these shows. Do you get nervous? Do you get nervous when you do live shows still?
When it's been a while, yeah.
Like when you do your own shows, you get nervous? Because I get pretty nervous though.
I don't really get too nervous when we do Bat Live, but when I'm on other people's streams, I have to behave. So, I gotta watch what I say, that sort of thing.
You're good.
I mean,
Everybody knows you.
Tonight. Yeah, I'll be on my best behavior.
Well, again, anybody who's out there, you'll see the pre-show up on the screen. At any point, you can jump into our Discord. That's open to everybody. It's a great Discord for talking Pantheon. But more than anything, you can jump into our green room. There's a voice video. There is a channel under Pantheon PlusYou on the left-hand side called Green Room. If you go into the green room, it tells us you want to come on the air to actually give us your opinion, talk about the topic at hand. You're actually going to be able to live vote and some other things as well. You saying I need turned up? Am I still turn yourself up or deaf down a little bit? All right, I can turn. That's okay. I can turn you to deaf. Easy peasy. That's why we do this ahead of time. Def, say something fun.
Hello. This is gonna be fun. I don't know. I'm terrible.
You're not terrible. Hopefully that fixes it a little bit. We can adjust during the show, so if you guys are having, that's good. Everybody said it's good. Awesome.
Oh, sweet.
Look at that one-time fix there. So it's 9 o'clock. Let's go ahead and let's get this show going. So I'm going to go ahead and start it up now. This is the official start. It's Pantheon PlusYou, episode 24. Here we go.
Oh, we're live? We're streaming right now? Cool. Awesome, man. Let me just...
A Pantheon Plus production.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Minus, and today we continue the lead story, crippling the content community. Where is Battle Axe Theater? For the last 3 months, our reporters and investigators have searched high and wide, yet unfortunately, we've come up with 0 leads. While rumors have been circulating of... Wait, go ahead. You what? Ladies and gentlemen, it appears that in fact we have located the founding members of Battle Axe Theater. Let's go live now.
Best skills in the game. All right, man.
All right, man.
No.
We need to go. Now we're talking like fish. Or do fish don't talk?
Battle Axe Live returns March 2nd at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
What is going on, everybody? Minus here from Pantheon Plus, and we got a little extra sizzle video there at the beginning, getting a little extra excited because tonight we have Def back on Pantheon PlusYou for your third time.
Thanks, man. I feel like I'm on a late night show with Conan or something. I came on the show and I have a clip. So
yeah, right. He's a lot funnier than me, a lot more established than me, a lot more professional than me. But it might be one of the few guys I might be better looking than. So I may actually fight that. Me versus Conan.
I might agree with you on that too, man.
So first, everybody, welcome to tonight's Pantheon PlusYou. Super excited to get rocking and rolling. If you are not already in the green room, please do us a favor. Get that green room lit up. We have one person in there, so there's a lot of spots. If you've never been on the show before, do not fret. The green room is friendly. We would love to have you live on the air with us. So first, I want to introduce my co-host more officially. You know, we had a promo sizzle. We were talking a little bit ahead of time. But guys, we have Def here from Battle Axe Theater. And honestly, one of the guys I absolutely love talking to. I love everyone in the community, but me and Def have had some great nights, some great moments. We actually text each other back and forth. So Def, welcome again to Pantheon PlusYou, but you guys have some exciting news we saw there. Battle Axe is back.
Yep, starting Monday. Yep, and then there'll be content coming out again. We're back from a long break. Just glad to get back into things. If I may, in the new Bat Live, we're going to have a segment called Community Rants. So tomorrow I'll be tweeting out our phone number for people to text, leave a voicemail, or call into the show and give us your own rants. So I'll have more of that on the Twitters tomorrow.
What do you think, Def, about doing rant reenactments for people? Like if someone like types you a rant, do you think you can do like a segment of your show ever where you're reading other people's rants for them?
I could absolutely do that.
Because I'll write one in for sure.
We've actually thought about doing that very thing too. So yeah, I totally would do that. But yeah, you know, I like to rant a lot, and people seem to like it. So it would just be cool to hear the community rants, you know, what grinds your gears and that sort of thing. So
without a doubt. Awesome. Okay, so I'm excited for you guys to be back. I'm excited to see some content, especially excited because I know I've talked to you a little bit about, you know, Pantheon and what's been going on, and I'm sure you have a lot to say about, you know, things like Fairthale and things that have been popping up in the community and just the progress of things. It's been a while since you guys were you guys had your project for Project Gorgon, which if anybody plays that game and you want to learn anything about it, this is the channel to go check out. Go check out Battle Axe Theater. They did an amazing, you know, how many videos was that?
Oh,
right, like
9? Okay.
Yeah.
9 plus the bloopers, but the bloopers doesn't count. It's just us being dumb. I think it's 9 or 10.
Well, there you go. So, I mean, it's anything from starting the game, what to expect, different systems, different things they did, an overall review. So, Project Gorgon, another indie MMORPG. You guys know that Pantheon PlusYou, while we are 100% Pantheon focused, we really are into indie games. We're into indie ARPGs like Wilson. We're into different indie MMORPGs. Yes, Pantheon's our love. That's what I care about more than anything in the world when it comes to this. But it's really cool to see them put that together. So if you're looking for something to play while you wait, they had a really good setup for that. So you guys can check it out, see if it's a game for you. But that being said, welcome back. And let's get to the topic at hand tonight. So we're talking tanks tonight. And
yes.
Yeah. I got to tell you guys, when we started Pantheon PlusYou, it was myself and Haya, and the first thing we said is, well, we want to make this website, and people have heard the story. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail, and that's been the big focus is build this website to pull people together, to share content, to get the word about Pantheon out there. And that is still our number one priority. And guys, we are so close on the website. We've actually showed it to a few people. We've gotten some good feedback. So I'm really excited that we're very, very close to launching at least a beta version of that website. You guys will be able to keep up with content creators a lot better. There's going to be a lot of features that come after that beta launch. So that's very, very close. I know I keep teasing it, but the reason I keep saying this is when we started, we said, well, we need to make some kind of content. People need to know who we are. We can't just come out and say, hey, here's a website. So the first thing we did was we covered class videos. pretty basic, easy way to go in. And it's been a long time since I've come on the channel and been able to talk classes, because we did our first 12 weeks, plus some wrap up videos of the classes. And that was it. I haven't really talked about them a whole lot outside of the races being revealed. So I'm pretty excited to now bring probably my favorite topic of discussion, which is classes, and bring it to the community, because I love talking about class. I don't know about you, Def. Do you get really into the classes in games like this, like RPGs?
Oh yeah. Yeah, in fact, before the show started, I was rewatching some of the co-streams, and just seeing him play the Dire Lord and seeing him play Warrior, it was getting me really pumped.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll get into that later on, but yeah, I was getting pumped.
Yeah. So I'm excited to be able to talk to the community. So like I said, if you're watching the show, jump in the green room. Let's chat about the tanks. And because this is not a show where we can just show a meter and say, what do you think? Do you like the classes? Do you like the tanks? Do you not like the tanks? We are going into our second episode of what we call the whiteboard. So I'm going to pull that whiteboard up now. Now, let's give everybody a quick rundown of what the whiteboard is. This is your opportunity to come on the show, whether it's in the chat or whether it's coming on live. You're going to be able to tell us things that define the different tanks for you. We're going to list words and definitions and things you guys write up there. If you agree with one, we'll make it bigger as a standout. But on this show, we actually did a pre-poll on if you had to play a tank, which one would you pick? And right now, you'll see the numbers across the top there. We have 9 votes for Warriors, 23 for Paladins, and 24 for Dire Lords. That was of about 10 minutes ago, so that should be pretty accurate. So as you come on the show, you'll also be able to affect that number. Even if you already voted, then you just get lucky because you got to come on the show. So if you come into the green room, you can jump in and give your vote and talk about it, and that would be that'd be pretty awesome. So what we'll do is we'll start. Def, I'll go first. Do you want to go? Let's go class to class.
I just want to bring something up.
Yeah.
9 votes for the Warrior. I mean, that's pretty low. I mean, and the Warrior's such an awesome class. I'm just kind of thunderstruck right now. You know what I mean?
Yep. So Hoye just asked that because he was AFK for a second. What do the numbers mean? Well, what we just said is we did a pre-poll on our YouTube channel, and those are the votes we had for if you had to pick one tank class, which one would you pick? So those are the votes so far. We're going to take, if you come on the show, you're going to be able to vote and adjust that. We'll take some of the chat voting and adjusting it, and myself and Def will also be able to. So Def, let's go ahead and let's start with the Warrior. And I'm going to tell you that my vote is actually going to be for the Warrior. So I'm going to change this to a 10. So my vote's for the Warrior. I got to be honest with you. I think for me, the reason I like the Warrior so much is because it's tried and true. A lot of people have heard this from me before. When it comes to my tanks and healers, I like the basic tank and the basic healer. When I think a tank, I think of a meat shield. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be fancy. I need a sword, a shield, heavy armor, and I need to be able to control the battlefield a little bit, but know that I'm going to be able to take the biggest hits, and my healers are going to not be stressing at all. My healers are just going to be able to, know that I'm not going to be spiky crazy all over the board. I'm going to have a reliable
It's going to be
smooth. Very smooth.
Yeah.
So
It's very smooth.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my first word in here. And again, we'll give the chat time to do it. But again, jump into the green room. Remember, ! Discord in the Twitch chat. We'll give you that link if you don't have it yet. And if you're already in there, jump in. So my first word that I want to put in there for Warrior is reliable. I think that would be the word I would put for a Warrior. Why I like Warriors is that they are a reliable tank. I think that across most situations that I feel like the Warrior is going to be a good go-to. Even when it's not the best, I think it'll be reliable. Def, what are your thoughts on the Warrior in that sense? First of all, what's your vote for?
My vote is for Warrior 100%. I'm the same way, man. I'll go ahead and tell you my word. They're dependable. Which you kind of almost stole my word, bro.
Almost.
But it's so true because Warriors are the fighters. They're the front to battle. They're the ones that, in most cases and in most MMOs, they have the most damage mitigation. They can take the beatings more than than other tanks. Normally, we don't.
What
we
was your
don't know
word?
everything.
Dependable?
Dependable.
Okay. Let's make sure I didn't make that up as I was typing. Have I already had too much to drink?
But like, and the play style in Pantheon is kind of like, and I've said this before because we've actually had this conversation about tanks before, previous on your channel. I just like the play style. I like the battle point system. I like the mitigation and resilience system, and how they kind of synergize with each other. I like how you got your quick charge. It kind of reminds me, and I've said this before, is kind of like the earlier WoW warriors, when warriors in WoW were good, and I freaking love it. I mean, warrior was one of my favorite classes in WoW, and I think they really did it good. And I think Pantheon's really nailed it down really well too. So
yeah, and the thing, like, for both of our terms, which are pretty close to each other, they're reliable, dependable. You have that, as you kind of said before, they call it the resilience and the battle points. Your armor is so important, and your mitigation is going to be so solid. Now, I don't know how that's going to affect getting a spell cast on you. That's where maybe we may have a bit of a question about that. But I'd imagine that we're going to have a massive health pool, right? As this like decked out, heavy armored beef. That's all I think is meat shield. I just want to say meat shield. Why is meat shield such a great meat?
it is.
Shield.
It's perfect, man. That should be a word on the warrior board.
Yeah. Yep.
Meat shield. I mean,
Shield.
they're in there. They're taking the hits. And if you watch that co-stream, his I don't remember the ability. Maybe it was shield block, but that thing was it was a quick cooldown, man. So you're able to just taunt and keep your shield up and do your things, and it's awesome.
Well, the other thing about that too is that the shield block is actually like a reactionary, like you have to hold it up. It's not just something that you have a buff and you do it. You literally have to kind of time it. And it's going to be interesting, I think, for tanking, because I've tanked in every MMO I've ever played. And we'll go into some stories about tanks once we get through the initial here, talk about some of the tanks iterations we liked. You brought up Warrior and WoW. So we'll definitely talk through that. And if you come on the show live and you want to talk about your favorite tanks in other games, that's more than welcome, because they're still building out some of these features of these tanks. So this show is also about being heard, about getting your voice out there with what you'd like to see in a tank, what's important to you in a tank. So we're going to have those types of discussions too. But I think I just want to set up the whiteboard, then we'll get into some conversations with different people from the community, and then we'll get into conversations and storytelling. So that's kind of a preview of the night. So let's go ahead and jump over to Paladin, and we'll talk about what words we think would be the best. You want me to go first again?
Yes.
So the Paladin in Pantheon, I feel like, is very unique from any Paladin I have ever played. So they have some of your typical things, like being able to really excel against undead is pretty cool. I think that needs to happen. So I think that in any situation where you're fighting undead enemies, that a Paladin is going to have a really nice advantage, whether it's just taking less damage, doing more damage, having the ability to control more things in that sense. So, and that's kind of the word I was going to use, is Paladins in this game feel very control. Like, you're going to be able to control the battlefield. You're going to be able to move stuff around. You're going to be able to stun things. You're going to be able to, push things. The Paladin in Pantheon feels like a very controlling type of tank. And when I first read through the tanks, I actually wanted to be a Paladin. That was too. Yeah. So when I first read through, and you know what made me not want to be a Paladin is just that I felt like, as I talked to more and more people, everyone wanted to be a Paladin. And it sort of pushed me away from digging deeper into Paladin. And then it made me more excited about Warrior, not because I thought that they'd be the bottom of the chart like they are for us here tonight. And like I said, we'll give the green room opportunity to move those numbers around a bit and vote stuff up. But it felt like Paladins, because of the way they were set up, because of their history in MMOs, we're going to have a really large player base, which is interesting because they only have two races, right? Dwarf and human, and that's it.
Dwarf and human. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's kind of my take on them. I mean, am I close to your thoughts? I mean, what other things stand out for you about the way that they're kind of doing the Paladin?
I don't know. I was looking through some of the abilities, and the word Avenger comes to mind.
Mhm.
Because, they have this special advantage against undead.
Mhm.
The whole. Let me just say, I was all about the Paladin. The Paladin was like my go-to choice, and when we started doing our videos together, I got more involved with the warrior and thinking, man, the warrior is my play style. But I don't know, man. Avengeful, Avenger, leadership.
Mm.
I don't know. They're kind of like the light that leads the way, Like they have that leadership role where you're in an undead area. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
You're gonna want a paladin in your group.
Yeah.
So
So you're gonna say leadership is kind of the way you're looking at it?
yeah, leadership would work.
Or you can go with Avenger. Retribution.
I'm not the best at this.
It's the second time we've ever done a whiteboard. You're in great shape. There's nothing to
Okay.
compare to. And the other time we had words all over and it got all messy. So we're already way better off than we were last time. So you're good. So you're saying
Awesome.
sort of the leader, the light in the dark.
Yeah, pretty much. That's kind of where
How's
my
that
brain goes.
Yeah. That's kind of what I got from the way you were putting that together with the undead and the being in the front and kind of like I was talking about with the control of it. I think the paladin is interesting because
It is. They're unique in Pantheon.
they are. And I think that, would you say that in most games, warriors and paladins have been the same since day one for what feels like forever? Like,
Yeah.
right? It's interesting. Like every game you play a paladin, you kind of knew what you were getting. This is a different take. I really actually enjoy the different take here. And again, it kind of comes down to just that control, the push pull stuff that they can do is really interesting. And it could be really huge. They could work really well with an enchanter. Like really well. Like if an enchanter and a paladin could get a really good relationship with each other, and you pull a group in and the enchanter's like, I need to CC this one, and as a tank, you push it away real quick, and as it lands from the push, they have the CC ready. I see an enchanter and a paladin working. I mean, enchanter's not going to work well with everybody, right? But
it's kind of like old school EQ. You could have a paladin stun that mob, and then your enchanter's already casting his CC ability. So the mob's stunned, the enchanter mezzes it. Once stun wears off, or during the stun, you're good.
Yep.
It's kind of a cool, unique little duo there. I'm excited.
Yeah, and I
want to play paladin. Damn it!
By the end of this, we'll see where you can move your vote if you want.
Okay.
I'm keeping mine in warrior. At least I think I am. The community could change my mind, so we'll see. All right, so let's get into the most popular from our pre-poll. I'm going to tell you, I'm surprised. I understand that Dire Lord is sort of newer. By name, it's brand new. It's the different play style that it seems to be the one that's going to be able to have DPS comparatively. You'll probably have more DPS. You might be able to have some DPS as a paladin against undead, but I think a Dire Lord is going to have more DPS than probably any. Now, here's the thing, though. A Dire Lord can't wear plate. That bothers me. I have never been a huge fan of non-plate wearing tanks in any MMORPG. I played a Demon Hunter in WoW for a tiny bit, hated it. I played a Druid for a while. I could forgive it because you get into a bear form. So, okay, I'm not wearing plate, but
you're a beast.
Yeah, my form's gonna be. But I never got into a tank that isn't, I don't know, sword and shield. Like sword and shield and again, heavy armor, standing tough in the ground. So my word for Dire Lord is actually probably not going to be super popular here. I'm going to call them
Edgelord.
I'm going to call them Spiky.
Spiky.
Yeah. So, and what I mean by that is I feel like the health pull of a Dire Lord is just going to be all over the place. I feel like it's going to drive a healer crazy. I feel like they're going to be using their self-healing to try to mitigate some of the up and down health that they kind of have, and then the healer is going to fill the gap on the rest of it. So this could be a tank that plays very well with like a hot healer. But I don't know. I've never been a fan of the self-heal tank, and that's what this feels like. And the only thing I can relate it to is a Death Knight in WoW.
Yep, that's
And-
exactly where my mind goes.
But a Death Knight could wear plate, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have this male wearing less mitigation self-heal tank that's going to be tanking with a two-hander, no shield, no heavy armor. I just feel like that these guys as a healer is going to stress the healer out from time to time. There's just going to be a lot of up and down to their health meter. So that's why I picked Spiky. So Def, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I do, like I said, I was watching some of the streams earlier, and the Dire Lord has a lot of cool abilities. Like, as a Necro fan from EverQuest, as a Shadow Knight fan from EverQuest, it has a lot of aspects that I really love. I love leeching abilities. I love harm shield. I love all those sort of things. But it's kind of like I asked myself, if I was the healer, who would I want to be my tank? And
Yeah.
you know, like it's the warrior. But you know, Pantheon's probably gonna, you know, make sure all their tanks are smooth running, you know, for whatever.
Well, that's
you know,
actually an interesting thing that you said there, because they did say that there is, because you know Pantheon's really pushing. For anyone who's new to Pantheon, I know we get a lot of fans that come in here already pretty knowledgeable about the game, but sometimes we get people who stop by and kind of are just learning about it, or maybe just found us. You know, the big thing Pantheon stresses is the class identity. So they've said, you know, all of the tanks will have their moments, which to me says certain fights, a warrior is going to be the best, and that's just what's going to happen. And if your group is so anal about makeup that you only want the best tank, well, that's going to happen. The other tanks will be capable, right? But each tank is going to have a moment to shine. And I think the other thing with Dire Lord is that they're going to have a little bit more magic mitigation. So it'd be interesting to see. Again, I'm not sure how that's going to play out with a plate wearing tank.
Yeah, I don't know, man. But and I don't have a word. The only thing I can think of is maybe they're more self-dependable. You know what I mean? They have the leeches. They can drain mana. In things like that. They have the harm shield. You know, so their ability to kind of get out of stuff, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's where they'll shine. But
It's actually interesting because you have a warrior, which is one of your favorites. Now we haven't said it yet, so let's just go ahead and say it. If I had to rank them, it would go warrior. I'd say warrior would have a big gap between 1 and 2. It'd be warrior, big gap. 2 would be paladin, very big gap as a Dire Lord third. I do not see myself playing a Dire Lord. If the game is going to be hard to level, I would say that I won't have a ton of time to play alts and have a ton of characters. So I'd have a DPS, a tank, and a healer probably, and then whatever else looks fun. So I think Dire Lord would be something I probably would never play unless there's just someone who convinces me because they look so amazing and so cool and they have the coolest legendary weapon ever. And I'm like, oh, I need that, right? Oh, Daze, thank you for the follow. Good.
I think they're all going to have their places where they shine. And I want to change my word to what Daki VR said, self-reliant.
Okay.
That's perfect. But I'm with you, but without the gap, man, is warrior. Where's my camera? Warrior, I would say paladin. I mean, I think the paladin and warrior is going to be kind of neck and neck.
So by the end of this stream, that could even change maybe.
Maybe, and then the Dire Lord a little paladin. I think they're all great tanks. It's just my play style with the combat points and the resilience and, you know, using your shield to get your mitigation going and stuff like that. That's just my style of tanking. So
yeah. Awesome. Okay, so that's our take on it. So the green room does have about 4 people in it, and we have plenty of time, guys. We'll go to a maximum of about 10:30, so we have about an hour left of the show. So if you want to get into the green room, even later in the show, jump in. Let us know you want to be there. We will come to the chat. If you don't know how to get to our Discord, in the chat there, you can hit ! Discord, and it'll pop up a message for you to be able to join our Discord. So let's go ahead. We had Booch in here early. Booch was in pre-show. He's ready to go. We refer to Booch now, who, by the way, let's pull him in. I'm going to pull him in and we'll give him a little congratulations here. So Booch, welcome, sir. How are you?
What's happening? Let me mute Twitch. Hold on one sec.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm muted. Okay, we're good to go.
So before I started giving you a bunch of shout outs, I wanted to bring you in. First of all, in our community, this isn't just Booch. This is what we refer to as the gamesman. He's the gamesman.
The gamesman. You have to say it with a slight British accent when you say that. The gamesman.
I got to work on my accents. I might be able to get you like an Australian accent for it. Like the gamesman.
We got to get Budrick. Budrick's got to work on the Aussie accent. He's living there. so he'll have one soon.
So the gamesman's here. And also, I wanted to give you a big shout out. I know that you're going to be a regular on the Voices of Terminus show here and there. I'm psyched about it. Yeah, super cool. Awesome to see the community all kind of coming together. So I love that you're there. Congratulations on that. You and Micah both. So let's talk some tanks, man. Before we start, you get a point to put in. And if you voted already, then you just get 2. You're lucky. So I
voted, and I voted Dire Lord.
So I'm going to put another point in. If you come on the show, you can boost it up again, because I want to make sure the people in the green room have maybe a little extra if you haven't voted. So you're going to put it into Dire Lord. So let's start at Dire Lord then. Tell us why you like Dire Lord so much.
Well, I personally, as you know, my main will be a Bard, but I always have Bard tank. So my alt will be a tank. It'll be a Dire Lord in this game because I like the novelty of it. As Theric said in chat, he said that people are going to play Dire Lord. That's exactly why I'm going to play it, because it's a twist on an SK that we really haven't seen. And I was just telling Lex in the green room, I mean, like they've said in theory that all 3 tank classes are going to be able to tank content. We don't know if it's supposed to be raid content, group content, whatever, but I personally have no problem with the warrior being the tank.
Okay.
For, being the boss of the tanks, and the paladin and the Dire Lord being the off tank and the group content tank. I have no problem with that. You know what I'm saying?
So you're seeing Dire Lord like as an AoE tank?
Right. Because I still get the feeling. They might say in theory that it's supposed to be equal to the warrior and all this, but I have the feeling in the back of my head. I know that when the game launches, after a little while, the warrior is going to rise and be the king tank.
That's it weird that like when we? I think I've explained at the beginning. I'm a traditionalist with classes, stemming back to D&D, and I didn't play much D&D. I played maybe 3 times ever. And I just know lore. Like I got really into fantasy lore. Def YouTube probably back in the day, right? It's just getting really into fantasy lore, and it was just something to me that like when I see a paladin and a Dire Lord, and this game's not going to feature what we know as hybrid classes, right? Like they're going to be their own class. But in general, with the realm of fantasy, I've always felt like the paladin and the Dire Lord were hybrid. They're not just a tank. They do other things, right?
Right. They're supposed to, right.
And in the classic games, I've always said to myself, well, the classic version should be the best at that one thing they typically do. I used to get so mad when I played WoW back in the day. And back like when Shadow was horrible and the game just first came out, I was like, why can Priest not be the best healer? Like, why is a Priest not the best? It used to make me so mad. So anyway, so you like the Dire Lord. We got your point in there. What are the other attributes of it? Sorry, I jumped in. I get all excited about classes.
Well, just the like I said, it's like innovative. They changed up your typical SK. You're not wearing plate anymore. You're not necessarily life tapping like an SK did. It's going to be, and you're HP based. You're on a different little bit of a twist. You're not really, in the past, all these, all plate classes, you're always worried about your AC. Yeah. You got to boost your AC. You got to boost your mitigation. Well, Dire Lord, you're going to play it a little bit different than you normally play a tank, which is cool. I'm cool with that. But then again, also I'll be honest. I'm most likely going to make a paladin just to see, their little twist on it.
Yeah.
see how it plays out because it looks pretty cool. The way that they're putting a little twist on it.
So what's a word we'll jump to Paladin here in a second. You put your vote in for Dire Lord. You did, it seems like you're really tying into the Shadow Knight from EQ days. It's a good comparison. I probably wouldn't have thought of. What's the word that you think of when you think of Dire Lord that makes you interested in the class? Like, how would you define that class to somebody? It could be a couple words. It could be, a small phrase, but what do you think?
Well, Dire Lord, I would say like innovative. Because that's what they're doing. They're doing something, we haven't really. I mean, there's been a few classes in different games that have been slightly close to it. I think, did Rift have? It wasn't necessarily a lifetime, but did Rift have like a two-hander cloth tank type? One of those games did it.
I remember Rift had the rogue tank, which was super interesting.
They had like another game, but I mean, we've never really seen it. They put a little twist on the tank, which is nice, so it's like innovative in there.
Okay. Something different, something refreshing.
Yeah.
Same old. Yeah. Okay. So let's get into Paladin. You said Paladins would be pretty close to you and that you may actually think of trying it. So what is it that puts the Paladin close for you? So you've already talked about the fact
Paladin
that
is, it's just classic. The Paladin is the classic MMO it's just it's one of the first classes that comes to mind when you're thinking MMO. You're thinking Paladin. Everyone wants to play a Paladin. You want to be the good guy, the Shining Knight, or like with me, you want to be the Dire Lord and be the bad guy. So
Yeah.
So that's funny because I look at the Warrior as the classic, but you look at Paladin as classic more for its class, I'd imagine, than it's
yeah. It's just because it's got such a I wouldn't say lore behind it, but it's got such an identity. The Paladin, the typical Paladin. You say Paladin, and in your head, I know everyone's thinking of some knight in shining armor on a horse. EQ, they had the unicorn.
Did you see what Lexer just said?
Crazy about.
Lexer just said, quote, that you said everybody wants to play the Paladin.
Yeah, I know. As soon as I said it, I was thinking, I was like, oh boy, Lexer's not going to like that one. But you know what I mean? I mean, if you put a 10-year-old kid in front of the game and said, look, which class you want to be? You want to be this good guy, the knight in shining armor? Of course the kid's going to want to do that unless, he's the young Lexer and he wants to be the Dire Lord.
That is the funny thing to say because the Paladin is, like, when you look at all three of them, right? The Dire Lord's the villain tank.
Right.
The Paladin's the knight in shining armor. And the Warrior's like the grunt covered in blood.
Right,
tank.
he's just the meat shield.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So what's a word you'd throw in there for Paladin?
Paladin, I would say classic. Just a classic. He's just a classic.
It's interesting you use that word because in Reddit
a basic bitch.
Right. That's basically right. Exactly.
I should put that on there. So yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, human and dwarf though. How do you feel about that?
That's a little. I don't know. I mean, why can't everyone be a paladin? I mean, who's to say?
Because not everyone's a gamesman.
But right. But I mean, in theory, so a paladin's supposed to be some kind of holy knight, holy warrior, right?
Yeah.
So why does it have to be good holy? Why can't it be why can't he be like a dark mare bad guy paladin?
Yeah. Why can't somebody repent? And this paladin also feels a lot more like retribution.
Right. That to me would be all the more reason why you should have the evil races can be a paladin.
I am wondering if by the time this game comes out, if we're gonna have a Darkmere paladin.
I don't know.
Because they could be clerics, and paladins do branch off of the clerichood.
Right, in theory. Right.
I have this sinking suspicion that we may see that when this game hits. I don't know. So third for you would be the Warrior. Now you said, here's what's interesting. You have the Warrior third, but you also said you're completely okay, bowing to them as the main tank.
Yeah. See, I don't subscribe to the balance theory where, they say, every DPS class has to be somewhat even. And all right, to me, the Warrior should be the king tank. The Wizzy should be the king caster DPS, and the Rogue should be the king melee DPS. Mm-hmm. If you're not those classes, and you want to cry that you don't do as much DPS, then reroll
you get a lot
Rogue,
of other things, right?
Reroll a Wizzy or reroll a Warrior.
Yeah, like a summoner should never do as much damage as a wizard.
No, and that's the way it should be. I mean, I think at least. I mean, I don't understand the need to, make everyone. Even a fantasy world shouldn't be equal. You know what I mean? Everyone doesn't get a trophy.
Yeah. And
Every-
it makes up for it because you get your utilities as well. Like a summoner will have things that a wizard don't, or a dire lord will have things a warrior
Exactly.
don't.
Exactly. Well, that then again that just reinforces the whole need for a group environment.
Right.
You know what I mean? If everyone can do the same amount of DPS, if every tank is equal, then what separates, just because your specific abilities are different than the next guy, but in the end, if you're doing the same exact thing, there's a lack of identity there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's interesting. Very interesting.
But that's just that doesn't fly with a lot of people though.
Yeah, that's true. All right, give me a
balance.
word for warrior. You used classic on paladin. On Reddit, we had somebody who kind of gave their opinions because we do a day early. We do a Reddit post about it, and they used the word classic for warrior, but you used it classic for like what the class represents. I think they used it classic for what a tank represents, if that makes any sense.
Right.
So, what would you say for a warrior then?
I'm gonna say warrior is the king of tanks.
I like
Ooh.
it. I like
Just
it.
put king.
King.
And you know what the funny thing is? I'm not really on the warrior. I probably sound like I'm on the warrior bandwagon, but I've never played, or I've never even. I had a warrior alt, but it was way after I had played EverQuest for years and years and years. I always rolled a different tank for an alt tank.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't stand not being able to heal myself.
Yep. I think 187 just brought up mitigation. That's such a good one. That's
Right, yeah, mitigate that. That's true.
And guys,
yeah,
we will
mitigation.
be going to the chat once we go through the green room a little bit here and putting your votes in and doing your words. I saw that, Mako, you pinged me for warrior. Don't worry, we'll get your point in there. Well, Booch, thank you, sir. Any tank stories, any great tank moment you want to share? What was your favorite tank you ever played in any game?
Oh, Jesus. I don't know. I think the most memorable tank moment I had was in EQ when I was on the plane of sky with my paladin and I did my epic hand in it and the server crashed. I lost everything. And
Did you really?
Oh yeah, I had to like petition, and I was like for like freaking 3 or 4 days. I was like, oh man, what the hell's gonna happen? Am I gonna get that stuff back?
Do you remember like
it took
how
me
old
like
you were?
freaking months. I remember how much of a bitch it was back when you're on DSL. Or I mean, maybe even
If you were
dial-up
lucky,
at that point. I went a bit on dial-up, so it was like
How old were you when you were
blue
doing
screen
that
of death. Oh shit! I was like 30-something years old. That was like I'm old. That was like the early 2000s.
Well, it made me remember a moment. I was so like another not quite as bad is what you were saying there. Okay, like that's rough because that's months long. I used to be obsessed with J boots. Every one of my characters had them. Even my bard had J boots. I used to just stand in the comments tunnel and click them because remember it would say like so and so feels faster.
Yeah,
and I would just stand by people and click
the
them.
red glow around you.
And people would get so mad at me. They're like, "Why do you have them on a bard? You don't need them." I'm like, "I have them because I have them." I had them for every character. I loved it. But before I ever got any on my wizard, who is my main, I was camping in S row, and the only way you can camp in S row is just kill everything and hope he spawns. And he spawned, and I pulled him into a corner like of the zone because I was terrified I was going to get kill stole, right? So I pull him into a corner. I'm nuking him down. I'm kiting him. I'm like, oh, he's mine. I'm like, my heart's racing. You guys know that feeling in MMORPGs. I don't care how old, young, whatever you are. My heart's racing. I feel like warm. I'm getting warm right now thinking about it. I'm sitting there, and I'm making sure my rotation's good. And here he goes, right? You remember the old animation for the Giants? He just hits the knees and falls. And I'm like, yes! And I run up and I click on him and it's not looting. And I look up and I'm just lagging. I'm like, oh no. And I got DC.
Those were the good old days. See, those are the things people don't appreciate about. The people that are coming into Pantheon don't realize the struggles we had back in the day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
so when I got back in, there was a group looting him. I literally sat there like this, like fighting back, like tears of frustration.
What are you gonna do? Right? Yeah. Jesus.
Like I walked up, I'm like, "Can I have that?" Like, no, of course not.
Man, that was a lucky group.
Oh,
yeah. Right.
Oh man. So awesome, Booch. Thanks for jumping in, man. Again, congratulations to you on.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely congratulations. So, thank you for your words. King of Tanks for Warrior, classic for Paladin, and Dire Lords, innovative, and he threw his point into Dire Lords. So
Oh, yeah.
Dire Lords are continuing to lead the way here in tanks. So awesome. Thank you, Booch. Appreciate it, man. We'll be talking to you soon.
All right, guys. Take it easy.
All right, so next in line, I believe, is Budrick, if he's there. He's usually at work watching our show, which is awesome. So he's at work being bored, and then we bring him in, and we can make his day go a little quicker. So we're going to bring Budrick in next to let us know what tank he's behind and get us some words on the board here. After that, we'll be going to Hoye and then Nimufe.
All right.
Budrick, what is up, man? Is he there? Sometimes he's not quite ready.
Hello.
Hey, Budrick, how are you?
Hey, Brad.
Hey, what's going on, guys? How's it going?
Not much. How's your night at work?
It's good. It's pretty bright. It's day.
Oh, your day at work. I forget that the
Yeah,
world
that's
is
good.
different and, different sides of the world. I knew you were at work, though.
Yeah,
Give me
yeah.
some credit there.
Yeah. No, it's good. Thank you. How's
So-
it going, Def? I haven't talked to you in a while.
Hey, bro, it's going good, man. What's your vote?
Yeah, where are you
Who's
putting your
the
points?
Yeah, so I'm gonna just go Warrior. I think that
My man.
I like how mostly everybody didn't pick the Warrior too. That makes me happy.
It's kind of interesting.
But yeah, like you would think that they would be like the favorite choice, right?
So if
But,
you were, why Warrior? So if that's your favorite, tell us a little bit about what you like about Pantheon's Warrior.
I don't know. I just like the Warrior and like when I usually play an MMO, I typically gravitate towards the Warrior class. I know it's like traditionally the more generic class, but I don't know, something about that I just like doing, and everybody's saying that he's going to be like the tank, like Butcher's saying he's going to be the king of all tanks, as it shows on the whiteboard. But I
whiteboard
really
never
don't think
lies.
so, man. Like, I really, really don't think so that the Warrior's going to be the best.
Okay.
I mean, I hope he is, because I'm going to roll one, but I do want some balance there for sure, because like we don't really know how hard the game is actually going to be, but just based on like what we've seen and from like the streams and whatnot, it seems that the Warriors like almost he doesn't really have the amount of spells to
Handle different
utilize
situations.
handle it. Yeah, right. So like if you get an ad, like he might be able to like leap to it, snap, taunt it, bring it back. But that's not to say like when you incorporate dispositions or you incorporate what mob actually is or the terrain it is or the type of mob. I know he would be like kind of the best in terms of like that situation, but it might hinder him. You never know, like it could be a downfall that he doesn't have that little extra on that specific mob when you're fighting in certain areas of the world,
What's interesting, right?
But,
So the one thing the Warrior has over everyone is that they get 20% bonus to armor class. Which is interesting, right? So they're gonna, and I think it was 187 who posted mitigation. I just feel like when I read about the tanks, that the Warrior is gonna have a lot of mitigation.
Yeah, I was going to kind of say something about that too. Even though you don't have the best crowd control situations, you got your shield block, that's giving you mitigation, which brings up your resilience and stuff like that. So basically, again, meat shield, that's going to be the benefit of having a Warrior as a tank, I think, is they're going to be able to take a beating to the face,
Yeah,
And the banners.
and I really like that, and that's probably something that and the banners. That's probably something that pulls me more towards him over the other tanks, because I thought like, dude, I would really like to roll a Dire Lord, I'd really like to roll a Paladin, but I don't know why I would say that would probably be the main reason why the Warrior resonates with me so much. But is that enough though? Is the mitigation and all that enough? Like, I know it was an EQ, and I know mitigation was a huge thing throughout other MMOs. I'm not too sure about WoW. I didn't play it that much, but I don't know if being able to actually use abilities enough to like stun them, to perma stun them, or to the high health with the Dire Lord will be more enough, especially if you're fighting some magical type of mob. Will that be enough to actually be a better performance? You know, you'd like to think so. You know, like if he's harder to kill, then yeah, it would be, because then his health is more easy and more sustainable. You're easier to heal him. You know, you can kind of get that synergy amongst the group a lot easier than the other two.
Yeah.
But will those other abilities kind of give those tanks the better edge in those situations? Because like when you put down the glyphs, when you put down, like, if the paladins and the dire lords have way better gear than the warrior you got in the group, like, will that be enough to push them ahead of the warrior? I mean, when you bring it down to just the basic, without any gear or anything like that, I'm sure that the warrior will live longer. So if you're running around naked in the beginner zone, and it's like, that's the true test. Who can fight this mob the best, you know? And whoever dies the slowest, I think, would be the better tank. But that's not necessarily a good basis line when you're going through the world, you know?
Yeah, but I just want to interject. Warriors do have some utilities. I think that's kind of getting overlooked here. I mean, we're going to have Spell Reflect. We're going to have Silence. The charge is current state Pantheon from what we've seen on the streams. The stun, the charge has a stun, you know, and then you have, did I say Silence already?
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, you're going to have some utilities.
No, I know.
It's just different. They're different styles.
It's a different style, yeah.
It feels more like a commander on a battlefield. Is what they really like when I think what they did with the warrior feels like commander.
Yeah.
I really love that. And I
so,
think
Budrick, what's a word you would use for warrior?
I got a good one. I like commander. I do like that word, but I don't know. Like, yeah, let's see, commander or challenger or something like that.
Okay.
You can put commander, because I think that's a good describing word for him.
Cool. So you've already kind of talked a little bit about some of the things the other two have with like the utility and the spells and stuff like that. So let's go to Paladin next. Where rank the tanks for me, for your opinion, just your opinion on your likelihood to play them.
Okay, so I would go warrior first, then dire lord, and then paladin.
Okay, so paladin's third for you. Why? Tell us why, then give us a word for them.
I don't know. Like, typically, I like paladins too. Like, I like the holiness in them, and I like. And I was reading through some of the abilities they had, and they sound really cool, dude. Like, you can heal yourself. You can put an Aegis shield on a defensive target, and they have like stuns in there. They have a lot of, I guess, I don't know what would be a good describing word for all these abilities. It's utility, but I guess it's
flavor
like with healing. Yeah,
it's kind of like class fantasy, class identity. They have a lot of identity.
Yeah, and yeah, if any of them like ring true to any of their names, I would say the paladin would, just based on his abilities. But if we're going off the abilities per se, because it's going to change. I mean, even in the last stream we saw the modifications in the spells, and it makes me think, what are they going to modify? You know, like every spell is going to be modifying. Well, you know, that changes it so much.
It'd be cool if eventually it wasn't just undead that your spells could hurt, but something that you had like a negative faction with, like a heavy negative faction. You could also do the abilities to. It'd be pretty cool.
That'd actually be pretty cool, and like that even like change the spectrum even more. And I think it adds to a balance. But
so give me a word for paladin.
I would say paladins are epitome. Would that be a good word?
Jeez.
The epitome of a paladin would be.
I didn't expect that word to come up. I'm not sure I spelled it right.
Let me Google that word real quick.
It's EPITOME, I think.
That's what I got up there. That's what I think it is.
I was kidding.
It just means like the truest version of something. So
no, that's
right.
There you go.
Yeah, or the holiest version of something, or the purest version of something. Okay. So I guess
I'm gonna start calling you Webster. Like Webster's coming in from Australia. So the last one you said following up the warrior was the Dire Lord for you. Give me a little bit on the Dire Lord and give me a word and we'll jump
All right.
into.
Oh man.
And also, Abiz, thank you for the follow.
All right. I think the Dire Lord's gonna be ruthless on every level. He's gonna be ruthless. Like within his bones, he's gonna be ruthless, and on the battlefield, he's gonna. Because I love the high damage. I love the high avoidance.
The lore too.
I love the lore behind him. The ability to be more a magical damage side of tanks. Because I think that's a really cool flavor that they added to him. You know, because when they were probably coming up with them, they're like, oh, how can we differentiate the Dire Lord from the other tanks? And I think that's a cool way to do it. But it is going to be hard to balance. But
Awesome.
I would say ruthless for sure, and then just like how bloody. I just think of a Scar Dialer, and then I think of Lexer, and then I'm like, yeah, there you go.
I mean, raise your hand in chat if you think of Scar as soon as you think of Dire Lord. Like I know there's some Ogre fans out there, and Ogre are probably going to be the best.
I know.
The Ogre will probably be the best
probably.
Dire Lord, but I immediately like. They came up with this Dire Lord class in a sense, you know, based off other things, and then they came up with Scar, and it just seems like they are a natural fit. I feel like 90% of the Scar are going to be Dire Lord.
Yeah, and if you could raise it to where one would be evil, one would be good, one would be general, you would know it. You know?
Yep. Awesome, Budrick. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I will. I'll see you later.
Yep. We'll talk to you next week. Take it easy, man.
See you.
So, Def, that was we've had some various opinions on here. Dire Lord is getting a lot of love though. Even though that was his number 2, he was warrior number 1. People really like Dire Lord.
Yeah, and man, I don't necessarily agree with the 3 tanks being unbalanced. I think they are going to have their unique style, and I think they're going to all be efficient tanks. You know. Now for rating, you know, that's a different story. You know, I think your warriors probably going to be your main tank for boss fights and stuff like that, just because of the mitigation aspect. But
it's gonna be interesting. It's interesting because the 3 tanks feel, from a theory and design standpoint, so different.
Yeah.
And then you talk about balance; it would be nearly impossible to balance every fight for them anyway, because they're designed so differently.
Right. I that's what I'm saying. Is like each tank is going to shine in different aspects. So I mean, I think whatever you do choose, and to be honest with you, I'm going to play all 3, dude. I'm going to roll 3 tanks just to play them because they all look fun.
That's how I was in WoW. I had, before I made any DPS alts, I had every tank leveled because I was so into tanking. And I was a raid leader and a guild leader. So like, I like to know how all the tanks worked. So when I was with another tank, if they needed help, I could give them direction. So I typically played all the tanks. Now I didn't play much monk in WoW. I didn't play much monk at all. And I barely played demon hunter, but the other ones I put a ridiculous amount of time into all of them.
And what's going to make this so fun in Pantheon is Pantheon's new, right?
Yeah.
So you're a tank and you're learning the dungeons and the, you know, the world yourself. Is new to everybody. So like you're going to be in there utilizing your skills. It's all going to be new. It's going to be awesome. Yeah. It's going to be the most exciting time to be a tank, is playing Pantheon at the launch, I think.
Yeah. And the biggest thing too is it's when you're tanking, in modern MMOs that we play, I think a lot of people have complained, you know, about the fact that things are easy, right? And I think that what becomes the most boring when things are easy is probably tanking, maybe healing. You might be able to debate that. But when tanking is nonsense and you're just AoE pulling everything, like a lot of games have become, and the threat's not difficult. There's not a lot of leadership other than just being the first in line to hit the mobs or pull the mobs. I think that the difficulty of the game in general in Pantheon is going to make tanking more fun again. And then the fact that these tanks are so different is going to give 3 people playing a tank a very different experience.
Yeah, if I wanted to pull gobs of mobs, I would play, you know, like Diablo or something like that. And that's what those games are designed for. But in an MMO, you know, like I want to strategize. I want to, pull this guy, CC this guy, or maybe we can take 2 and keep him back there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what makes tanking so fun, or being a puller.
Well, the other thing that was fun about tanking in early WoW days, like as a warrior, for example, is when you had to remember you'd have to wait for Rens up on a target. So you'd be like, guys, don't attack until you see, Sunder. Don't attack until you see 3 Sunders, right?
Yeah.
But what you had to do back then is if you had 3 targets, it wasn't just an ability that kept all the targets. As the tank, you'd know the main target, so the group would be on the main target, and you would load that one up for threat, and then you would tab target to the other ones and hit them with a couple abilities here and there, then go back to your main and build back up. You had this ability to kind of turn. Like imagine your tank standing at the front of a line. You're blocking this guy, you're hitting this guy, you're focused on him, you're messing him up, you stun him, you come back here. There was this very active playstyle for tanking back in the day that's kind of been gone for a while. And and it's because of difficulty. Because AoE tanking was just click a button, right? Just click a button and you were AoE tanking. And if you didn't have that button, you weren't a good AoE tank. Like back in the day for like Wrath of the Lich King Paladin was OP as hell. You drop a consecration down, you had an AoE normal attack, you just pulled every mob to you and you were unkillable because everything was dead and you were just a beast. And then the poor warrior who was okay at AoE and off tanking and had like thunderclap and stuff would be busting his butt to do the same exact thing that 2 buttons did on a paladin.
Right. Yeah.
And I remember those days. Trust me, I played both. Let's go ahead and go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I remember back in early Q where it was kind of the rule of thumb to DPS don't attack until the health is 97%, I think it was, 97, 96%. So it just goes to show you how, and we don't know how exact Pantheon is going to be like this, but it goes to show you there's a lot of work into tanking. And when a game puts it out there where you just run in willy-nilly and pull everything and just cast an AoE taunt, it just kind of destroys the fun and uniqueness of being a tank. But that's all I was going to say.
Having a tank go in first or have a character like help with threat gen is really cool. I like those kind of mechanics. Let's go ahead. We're going to jump to Hoye. And chat, don't worry, we will get to you guys as well. We're going to get to Hoye, then we'll get to Nemufe, and then we're going to get to chat. We're going to get your guys' votes in. We'll check the poll that we had up that kind of kicked off the votes for each one. If you had to play one tank, which would you pick was what the poll question was, and that's the numbers you see beside them there. So far with Warrior, reliable, dependable, King of Tanks, Commander, those fall together pretty well from what the community's saying. Paladin, Control, Light in the Dark, Classic, Epitome. And then you had Dire Lord, Spiky, Self-Reliant, Innovative, Ruthless. It's funny that to me the Dire Lord words feel like they could also fit a great melee DPS.
Dark.
Yeah.
Not dark.
Edgelord. Edgelord needs a
Edgelord, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Okay, let's bring
Spiky.
Hoye in and see what he has to say. I know Hoye is a huge tank fan, so I'm excited to hear what he has to say here. What's going on, Hoye? How are you?
Hey, guys. Welcome back, Def. We're excited to have you coming back, bud.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Appreciate it.
So what's up, Hoye? This is your category. Me and you have talked tanks quite a bit. I'm excited to kind of talk to you more about it on the air. Have at it, man. First of all, where's your vote going? I think I know, but where's your vote going?
Going to Warrior. I didn't vote yet, so this is my vote.
Hell yeah.
I'll be honest. I read all the abilities and stuff of the other 2 tanks a while ago, but pretty much said I wasn't playing them. I'm playing Warrior, so the other 2 tanks need to be nerfed.
Now you're a huge tank guy. Are you a singular target guy, or like a character guy?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I've always got one tank, and then I've always got like one DPS. But generally tank is always my main, and whenever that one's pretty much raid worthy, then I start working on another character.
Okay. So tell me what made Warrior stand out to you, and tell me, since you've played tanks and you've probably played Warriors in other games, not just what made it stand out against these 2, but what is it about Pantheon's Warrior that you like?
I like the play style. Well, first of all, for me, I like playing tanks because I like kind of stat bragging, I guess you could say. Like, oh, I've got the highest mid, I've got the highest HP, like all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And I think Warrior's pretty much going to have it. They've got the 20% mid, and I don't know if Warrior's going to have higher health than like a Dire Lord or Pally. I think some of that may be partial of how you're geared up and racials probably, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But I mean, as far as a meat shield, there's not going to be a better meat shield stat wise than a warrior. Resilience and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, that's basically what it comes down to. I've never really been a fan of like magic tanking, like the Dire Lord will probably be better at.
And I've never seen a ton of MMOs do well at that.
Yeah,
because like so I think it was it was when they first came out. Death Knights in Wrath of the Lich King had a build to be a magic tank. I think it was
Frost.
I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, Frost or Unholy. It definitely wasn't Blood. But one of them was like made to handle that, and that was gone pretty quick because I felt like they didn't know how to do that properly, then still allow them to be able to be a normal tank too. So that it felt like that didn't work. And I've never really seen a tank in a game super successful as a dub magic tank before.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how this one plays out. But I think Dire Lord's got it as far as the magic, as far as what they want to do. I think Dire Lord's got the magic tank. But yeah, I just really like it's very classic. It's the whole class I feel like is built around survival, staying alive, making sure your group stays alive as far as, making sure you have aggro, support in your group as far as banners and overall just not dying, shield block, wall of shields, all this really badass stuff that's what you think of when you think of a warrior or gladiator type class. And
that's a good word for him. Gladiator.
Staying alive.
He also said survivalist. I like that word too. Damn.
Yeah, they got the will to live. Is that what it is? So I mean, it's got a lot of really cool stuff, and it's not like like big heavy hitter DPS abilities. It's all like a lot of abilities that basically just help you stay alive better, tank better.
Yeah, and the thing with warriors too, again, I mean, I've said this a few times, but the simple fact that they have, right off the bat, no other tank they have 20% more armor. Just right away. No one else has that.
Yeah.
And that's,
go ahead.
No,
and back in the day, AC was king, man. You know what I mean? Like mitigation and armor class, it didn't matter how many hit points you had to have some mitigation. When the AA system in EverQuest, you got your combat ability and stability maxed out before you went on to get any of the cool stuff, because that mitigation and avoidance just mattered so much.
And because it's a percentage, I think it's going to be really huge when the game progresses on in later expansions. As they get a bigger and bigger gap, they get higher and higher AC, the percentage is going to grow a lot.
And it's interesting because they have the ability to do the wall of shields where you can have multiple warriors. Now, the one thing I would say about warriors is that in like let's say you had a 12-man raid, I don't know the benefit of having 2 warriors other than that ability. That's the only negative I would say. If you had a good warrior, I think you'd be better served to have one of the other tanks with you.
Possibly, yeah.
So it's interesting that they have that, because that ability it just sounds crazy. From a lore standpoint, like 2 warriors lock shields and they're impenetrable. It's like the coolest thing in the world. If you were a warrior and you had a warrior buddy, you're like, yeah, let's do this, right? It's like a total bro moment. But okay, cool. So what's your word for warrior?
Survivor, I guess.
Yes.
I'm a survivor. All right, awesome. So as I'm getting that ready, rank them in order for you. If you had to rank them from your not so much if you like them, but if you would play them. Now I know you said you probably wouldn't play the other ones, so I imagine Warrior's a distant number 1. But how would you rank them?
It would be Warrior, and then Paladin, and then Dire Lord, probably gapped equally apart.
Okay, so maybe a Paladin, probably not a Dire Lord is the way you're looking at that.
Yeah. When I think of being a tank, I really would want the shield on the back and the mail plate armor, which is ironic because I mained a monk forever for many years. But lately, since I've started playing more of these heavy tanks, I really like the just that knight in shining armor look, I guess.
Yeah,
I really like the Paladin lore. Like, I really like that. I think that's really cool. So I can look at them and tip my hat to them, but I just
have one as a friend. It doesn't need to be you.
Exactly.
We got to get the warrior count up, because I know Lex is coming on soon, and I know where his vote's going.
He's in chat, so he's already said his vote. So
I'm really surprised that Warriors as low as it is.
Me too, dude.
It
I
is
was
surprising.
saying this earlier. If you think about it, the WoW servers, Warriors, the highest played class percentage wise.
Oh, really?
That's crazy. When BFA started, it sure wasn't, because I was one of them.
Oh, I looked at it recently, so I was looking at classic servers the other day.
Maybe it's just that Shadow Knight polling of like the old EQ fans, because there's a lot of EQ fans, obviously.
Shadow Knight was one of my favorite classes in EverQuest. I mean, that was just so fun.
I know that, when we started off here, Booch brought up the Shadow Knight, but does this Dire Lord, I mean, for you guys out there that were big EQ fans, I didn't play a Shadow Knight very much at all. But what I remember of it I don't think Dire Lord and Shadow Knight, other than just the evilness. I mean, did anyone out there play a ton?
So from what I understand, Shadow Knights also kind of manipulated the blood too, didn't they? Just like Dire Lords, as far as
I know, they had like harm touch.
So we were kind of talking about this earlier, how the Paladin and the Shadow Knight in EverQuest were kind of like a hybrid class. So your Shadow Knight was kind of like a warrior and a necro. You had as Shadow Knight, you had your Lich, so you're constantly gaining mana. You had all your leeches, so you could leech the mob, you could life tap the mob, and you had your damage shield. So every time a mob hit you, they would take damage, and that would stack up with other buffs like druids and rangers and mages. So it made it for a really fun tank with all the damage shields and the leeching and stuff like that. And that's what made it fun to me. But what you're saying, Minus, is they're not really the same as the Dire Lord's not the same as the Shadow Knight, which is kind of true. I don't see a whole lot of leeching, and I don't see a whole lot of damage shields.
I see a resemblance, but like, I feel like it is a different class.
Yeah. What's the?
I think a lot of healers are gonna like Dire Lords.
See,
at least
as a cleric, I would not. If I was a cleric.
Well, see, I think it's gonna depend on your playstyle too. I think a lot of healers like the rubber band healing. It's like at least for group play, because it's more engaging for them than just like a warrior who loses.
Steady heal.
Yeah.
Have an OCRAP button, but
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So what would you say?
When I first started playing, go ahead.
You said Paladin was second. So what would be a word you'd use for them?
This one's actually kind of more just why I like the class, and that would be lore.
Okay. Theric loves that. I know Theric's thinking,
yeah. Like I'm not really a fan of hybrid classes, tanking, healing, that kind of thing. But to me, I just like what they represent. They're the holy warriors. They just got their niche and all the lore that surrounds them. I mean, out of any class that you could think of, if you say Paladin, people know exactly what it is, what it's gonna do, and which. A warrior, it could go a couple different ways, how it's going to play out. A monk could go, well, monk's pretty solid too, but
yeah,
there's a couple different ways you can play. But a paladin, you know exactly what it's going to do.
Yeah. And finally, so you said last, and you gave us some reasons on the Dire Lord. What's a word you'd use for them?
Sad. Just
emo.
No. I think they're squishy.
All right, spiky, squishy. Yep, that's where I am, man. That's where I am. That's a good word. And see, and here's the thing. Oh my god,
that's a burn.
Agree. But
that's a burn.
From the outside looking in, I feel like they're so squishy, so squishy. Yeah, I mean that is such a good word. That's such a good word, Hoye.
I feel like I will say though, I feel like if you're gonna be, I feel like the skill ceiling is a lot higher for Dire Lords. I would.
Yeah. Could be for sure. All right, Hoye. Well, I'm excited. Another warrior, brethren. I will not be maining a warrior. I'm maining a rogue, but if I do play one, I would definitely. If I play a tank, I'm playing a warrior, hands down. And if I play a healer, I'm going to play a cleric, hands down. We'll probably have another one of these eventually down the road for healers too. But I just like that traditional. I don't know. I like traditional when it comes to those two roles. DPS, go crazy. I'll try all the things in the world, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, thanks, buddy. I appreciate you jumping in. I know you had a bunch of stuff going on, so I do appreciate you being part of the show tonight. Thanks, man.
Later, Bray.
All right, so we're gonna bring in Nemufe here in just a few seconds, but let's go through chat. We had a ton of stuff going on in chat. I apologize, guys. We've had a lot of discussion going on. Chat, this is your time to cast your votes. Ping me with your vote and who you want to vote for. I know that we already had Lexer say Dire Lord, so let me get him in. Def, you might have to help me a tiny bit with this. And I know that Mako said he wanted Warrior. So Mako, I got you. You got me pinged, so we're gonna put one into Warrior there. And what you guys can do is do your votes. But as you guys are putting your votes in down there, I'm going to go up a little bit here. And so we had some good points here put on the board. So I'm going to run down these. Talking about like just the Dire Lord being crit based and HP based has been a big discussion point. The chat has talked a little bit about, group reliance on a tank versus being able to solo. I would say probably Paladin and Dire Lord. And I think, let's see, 187 kind of was talking about this a little bit. Dire Lord and Paladin have self-heal. So it might be slow going to kill stuff on their own or in a smaller two-man group or a three-man group. But Warrior's probably going to really be reliant on having a good healer and probably a solid DPS. They could probably three-man fantastically. But I think that you're going to have a lot more self-reliancy in both the Paladin and the Dire Lord, which is pretty important. Hoye brought it up. He kind of already said that the Warrior... he's shocked as it being low. We've seen that a couple times. Dire Lord being the heavy damage tank has been brought up, which has been pretty important. Fragile had he said ogre racials really equal Dire Lord, 100%. 100%. The ogre racials for Dire Lord or Warrior. I'm not gonna play one, but they're really good. They're really good. See here. Fragile also said he thinks each tank has their niche and it'll be that it'll shine in the most, but all of them will be viable. Yes, I do think viability is going to be there, but you'll have a time where you'll probably say, man, I wish we had a Paladin for this undead boss. That little extra damage would help. That kind of stuff. 187 also said that synergy for the group composition is also going to be important. Yeah, what kind of healer do you have? Who's your DPS? What kind of DPS do you have? That kind of stuff's obviously going to be pretty important. So a lot of good conversation going on. You guys are having a great conversation. So let's go in here. So Theric went Dire Lord. I didn't see that coming.
What?
Theric going Dire Lord on us. Fragile going Paladin. That's the first Paladin vote tonight, isn't it? I think we were kind of where we were.
We got some more Paladin. Once you get further down the chat, there's some more Paladins.
Yeah, we had Cerulean. So we had what, 3 more after him? 1, 2, 3 more Paladins. So that's geez. Paladin just had their day. They just jumped up to tie for first. We had 187 Warrior just because of mitigation. He's been, I got to give 187 some credit. He has been shouting mitigation. I love that word. Let's go ahead and throw that up on the board in honor of 187. We'll put up mitigation up there because I think that is a great way.
Well, you mentioned having, depending on the tank, depends on what healer you have for it to work well. Mm-hmm. Dude, I think a healer would have its job a little easier with a warrior, in my opinion, with all the mitigation.
Yep.
I mean, if the warriors, throwing up their shield blocks and all that thing and building up their battle points and their resilience and all that, and using their silence and banners and stuff like they should, I think a cleric would have no problem.
Yeah. Well, and that's interesting too. So we were talking about, we'll get into a side topic of tanking. For those of you that tank, this is where you'll definitely want to light that chat up a little bit. But when you're a tank and you have your DPS who don't understand how to DPS and all they care about is their numbers, now you're running around trying to save them. Now the healer's trying to save them. And that's where I think even a warrior's a little bit better off even. Because if that warrior's not super spiky, that healer can feel a little more comfortable, jumping over to your rogue DPS who doesn't stop DPSing and is backstabbing and poisoning enemies that they're not supposed to poison. I'm not going to name them, but there might be a rogue who might do that because numbers, bro. Numbers.
Or a wizard that nukes right off the bat before the mob gets to the group. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you
pulling
see the mob.
a damn Larry and just nuking the shit out of the mob before it gets to the group and not allowing the warrior to get aggro.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. So, and Theric says you got to know your tank is a DPS. Yeah, in a perfect world, Theric, that's the case. But that's so true on the caster. Oh my God. I remember, was it mages in or wizards or whatever the heck. Why can't I even think what they're called and why I played one is mage. A fire mage starting up the really long, whatever pyroblast. So you're pulling and they're like, shh, and you're like, wait, we're not pulling yet. Too late. I've been charging this spell for 10 seconds. So
it's like the chaos bolt for the warlock.
Yeah. Or they just start firing dots on everything. Like, hold on, guys, we have 3 mobs. We're gonna CC this one. You pull them all in, and just dots everywhere on everything. Like, well,
yep.
Good luck.
And if you're not in voice chat, you can't give them a warning because you're too busy trying to get aggro on everything. It's a nightmare.
How did we tank before voice chat? I don't even know how that happened. Swift cast it. Nice. Very, very nice.
Well, back in EverQuest, it was slow paced because that's all we had. We had to watch chat,
Yep. We got another vote for Direlord. Direlord and Paladin are battling it out while we're in the back here.
Come on, guys.
Omega Contagion.
Get some warrior votes in here. Sorry.
Where are the warriors? I'm okay with it, though. If there's not a lot of warriors, it might entice me to play it a little more. Abiz said you got to trash talk your tank. Keep them motivated. You have 2.5 seconds to control aggro. Good luck. That's why I absolutely loved the whole Sunder mechanic in WoW. Wait for 4 Sunders. And you'd have DPS like this close to the screen. 4, go. Like, just start going at 4, man. Like, as soon as that 4 or that 3 comes up, they're like, what? Took them about a split second to get the 3rd up. Here it goes. And I mean, they were jumping on it. So we have D Sizzle. There we go. D Sizzle. That's our guy. That's our new guy. That's not a Larry. That's definitely not Larry.
Heck yeah.
So we got one more warrior vote in there. So okay, so let's go ahead. We're gonna bring in Nemufe, and then Full Go. If you're looking to come in, we'll bring you in after. So Nemufe, if you want to go ahead and unmute your mic and your headset, we'll drag you down. Nemufe, what is going on? How are you?
Hey, doing good, thanks.
Good to have you back. Thank you for coming on to another show here. So, are you a tank fan? Like, are you someone who's going to play a tank as a main or more of an alt?
Probably as an alt. I mean, I play tanks in other stuff, but
okay,
yeah.
Okay. So when you look at these 3 tanks, where would you cast your vote?
In the poll before, I went Paladin.
Okay, we're going to let you go again because you came on the show. That's something we've kind of instituted. You get a double vote if you come on, so I'm going to give you 29.
See, this is where I'm torn because I've sort of been convinced to sort of change my mind over to Warrior now.
Yes!
Well, let me help you with that. So we'll keep your original point in it, but we'll put your new point into Warrior. I think that's fair.
Okay, there's 2 reasons I'm going Warrior.
Okay.
And one of them is, like, they seem passively good, but the fact that you have to be reactional with the shield block, it makes me think of, like, Blade and Soul tanking.
Oh, we're talking Blade and Soul. I just got
where you didn't have healers, you just had to be good.
Yeah, it was the what was the tank with the, I can't remember, not the Blade Dancer, but the Blade Master. Oh my gosh, tanking as a Blade Master was ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You know, another game that you could hold the shield up was Terra as a Lancer. You could literally like hold the button to like put your shield up and people would have to get behind you. I mean, you're not going to see that in Pantheon, but that was really cool how they did that.
Yeah. The other reason was I was watching Nathan's videos and reading through all, and the warriors have a skill that lets them bust through environmental walls, like the Kool-Aid guy.
Yeah.
And that just sounds so awesome. And like neither of the others have like world utility like that. So
I don't know if you have like the ropes and you have the rafts and the ladder, so you have some, but nobody has a bust through like that. Can you imagine if you're in a dungeon and that ability or your strength isn't high enough? Because I think it plays off of your strength, if I'm not mistaken. So like, let's say you're in a small, low-level dungeon and there's a wall that looks weird, but you can't get through it because you don't have enough strength. So you come back at a higher level and just go right through the wall, and there's like a higher level section. Oh my god, that'd be the coolest thing in the world.
Or can you imagine that you don't have a because everybody went Direlord and you're gonna wish you rolled a warrior,
and everyone's gonna have to start over and make a new. So what is it? So you brought that ability up, but as a whole, you were looking at Paladin. Now you're kind of looking at warriors. It's safe to say you like the traditional shield armor tank.
Yeah, the very passive tank. You just have high stats for tanking.
Okay. Yeah, I'm the same.
having some sort of, you have to have some input, like reactions to tank that, otherwise it just gets boring.
Yeah. So what's a word you would use now that you've kind of switched over to the warrior life, and we're happy to have you?
I was trying to think of one, and honestly, reliable that's already on there is the best word to describe.
Well, when we get a double, we can make it bigger. Ooh. That's one of the tricks we do here, Def.
Okay.
All right, so
I thought we were going to put Kool-Aid Man, but
so reliable, that's a good one for it. So why? I know you've switched to warrior because of the reliability, because of some of the stuff and the abilities, and seeing some of the videos in the talk tonight. But what was it about paladin that you liked so much before that?
Sort of the diversity and adaptability, which is my word for paladin. The fact that they had, so much utility that they could, stun or off heal, tank stuff. I think they have like a temporary charm as well or something. There's just so much they can do, and then against undeads, they can just go completely ham on them and kill them. So.
Yeah, they have an ability. I'll look up the exact name of it, but the ability that's really cool for a paladin is that one where they'll just like lay down, or knights for persuasion. You use charisma to persuade a target to lay down their arms for the sake of peace. If successful, it immediately ends combat and makes the target friendly for a limited time. That's really cool. You're basically like fighting him, and you're like, repent. And the guy's like, okay, I get it. We're friends. Throws his weapon down, and you move on in the dungeon. That is pretty cool. Adaptability. That's a good word. They do have a lot of utility. It might be the most supportiest tank I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's such a good word, dude.
Adaptability or supportiest?
Adaptability.
I don't think supportiest is a word. It could be. Let's ask Webster. Where's he at? Wondering. Okay, so then Dire Lord seems like rank your tanks for us. So it's warrior, then I'd imagine paladin.
Yeah, they're both
close?
Pretty close. Yeah.
Where's Dire Lord at for third? Is it far? Or?
It's a lot lower. It doesn't do what I want a tank to really play like. Okay. It's pretty cool, and it's different, and that's what I like about it. I wouldn't want every single tank to be the same, but it's not how I would want to play a tank.
Yeah, it almost feels like a selfish tank. Like, do you want to be a tank or do you want a DPS? Like, you make up your mind.
Right, self-righteous tank. Get it? Because it's a paladin.
Yeah, right.
But
the Dire Lord is strange in that sense. It's just like so I was thinking about this as we've been talking about this, because it was brought up with the plate on the warrior and the paladin, and Dire Lord not having it. And then I realized something. Since I don't like Dire Lords, there's no loot share. No loot share to a Dire Lord. Right? So,
yeah.
What are Dire Lords wearing? Male?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they can't steal your plate.
Yeah. So I'm just going to bring a Dire Lord with me as my off tank all the time. Right, Def? Sure. That's the way to go. Yeah. Yeah, we have to share jewelry and probably like a one-handed weapon maybe. But they use two-handed, I think, most of the time. So what is a word for Dire Lords then? They're down the chain for you. They don't do what you want to do, but what would you have a positive or a negative word? Like mine was spiky. We've had squishy. Those aren't very positive. Those are the only two things on the whole board that I think aren't real positive. Everything else is kind of positive. So where do you stand on them? Are you against Dire Lords, or is there something you can appreciate about them?
I mean, sort of risk and reward kind of thing. I'd say they're risky. The regen doesn't kick in till they're already on low health. They don't get healing until they've been crit already. It's kind of...
That's a good point.
The damage and healing doesn't kick in until they're already really low. So, yeah, risky.
Yeah, I feel like a druid or a shaman with them are going to be cool. So here's one thing. I'm gonna give a nice little thing out to the Dire Lords. They do have one of the coolest abilities, I think, for the tanks. And if they are with a shaman, this is going to be ridiculous. The ability they have called Splatter.
Yes,
It's a
AE
violent
ability.
attack, yeah, that splatters your enemy's essence in a small radius. Other enemies within that radius have a chance to be affected with the same detrimental effects as your target. So could you imagine if a shaman was running with you and they were debuffing a target, you splatter it to the other mobs you're fighting, you've just saved that shaman a ton of time. That shaman becomes more powerful because the shaman grows off of their debuffs that are out there. And now that shaman can hit you with quicker heals as they're healing as well. So that kind of plays to your life being a little spiky. I feel like a shaman and a dire lord are going to be really good together. Really good together because of that. So
Off topic, man, but the shaman really has my eye. I'm really considering playing a shaman as my alt.
I was gonna say it was a main. No.
Warrior's probably going to be my main.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Well, Nimufe, thank you very much, man.
No, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, definitely, man. It was nice talking to you, and you're always welcome. Thank you. All right, so let's go ahead. Def, if you need to run for a second, go for it, buddy. I'll pull in.
All right, I'll be right back. I've drank too much beer.
So full go. If you want to come on the show, just unmute your mic and your headset, and we'll bring you on. There he is. So I'm bringing you on. Def will be right back. What's up, full go? How are you?
Yeah, I'm going.
So, we lost him. Where'd he go? Let me put him back. I don't know how you jumped back up into the other chat there. You here now?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Witchcraft.
Oh yeah, something. It's probably Def. I mean, he's probably actually just down under his desk messing with stuff. So where do you want to put your vote?
Look, I'll go Dire Lord.
Okay. Dire Lord fan.
They remind me of the Shadow Knights.
Okay. So we were talking about that earlier. So is it the life tap type stuff that really brings them?
It's the vampiric abilities. They've got where is it? A damage shield. They've got the two-hander. It reminds me a lot of the Shadow Knight.
Okay. It's funny, when I played Shadow Knight in EQ, I played Shadow Knight because I got the drop the Mace of Shadowed Souls because I was an early. So I got the Mace of Shadowed Souls. I'm like, well, I guess I'm making a Shadow Knight now. But I did the Mace was a one-hander, so I was always a sword and shield. I never did much two-hander, which is probably why I didn't like the class that much. But So cool abilities. You don't mind the plate. You're fine wearing mail.
Yeah. I remember I remember a stream, I think it was a little while ago, where I think the devs were talking. They said, look, the warrior's going to be more AC, paladin's going to be more mitigation, and dire lord's going to be more health. So they're not being built for AC. So it makes sense for them not to get the plate.
Yeah, it's actually a really good point, and I think everyone agrees that they're going to have a ton of health, especially because a lot of their abilities are based off percentage, right? So if you have a massive health pool, now your self-healing is going to be pretty big. Now, you said that this is probably going to be a main or an alt for you.
Oh, look, it's probably going to be an alt. I typically run my casters as tanks.
Okay.
So in EverQuest, I was running my enchanter as a tank. I was able to tank up to tier 2 group content. So
the old days of OP enchanters, which is going to be a whole other show we do where we talk about support classes. I really hope that's not the case again, but we won't get off topic too much, Def. We almost got into an enchanter discussion.
Yeah, I caught that.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for enchanting conversations, so.
Oh, we'll be having one. Don't you worry about that.
All right.
I'm excited that Pantheon has a enchanter class, so that's really exciting.
Yeah. I don't want to see the charms. Again, another day. The charms scare me. Okay, so Dire Lord, what's the word you would use for them?
Dynamic sort of comes to mind.
That's a good one.
For some reason, I'm not sure why.
That's the whole point. What comes to your head when you think about it? How would you explain it?
I don't know. It's sort of. I'm thinking of the enraged abilities when playing EverQuest. Like, you drop below a certain percent of health and you'd fall enraged for the tanks. I see it a lot like that, where they start critting, they start doing their damage, they start, their healing abilities all start after they're sort of, quote, enraged.
Yeah. It's
I
interesting.
didn't think about that because I mean that was a big deal back in EQ when the target went rampage. That's your burn phase. So having Dire Lords would really be beneficial at that point.
Adding the damage and yep.
Yeah.
They also have that interesting ability that's a really nice utility ability that no one's really mentioned yet, which was Dire Mark, where you can have a target's damage redirected to you, which is interesting again because they're not as much mitigation. So they got to have a huge health pool if you're going to be like, well, the healer is going to take a lot of damage in this phase, so let me mitigate some of their damage so they can focus on healing. Now you're taking their damage, which probably isn't very mitigated, and then you're taking your damage, which isn't very mitigated. So I'm interested to see how that ability plays out and how much that stresses the tank with how spiky you end up becoming from that. So that's an interesting Dire Mark there. So
I also wonder if Dire Mark then also helps with interrupts. So the healer, if it's put on the healer, if they get interrupted as much.
It's interesting, yeah, because sometimes it's amount of damage and stuff like that. So if they're taking less damage, maybe they wouldn't. It is interesting. It is a pretty dynamic class. I'll give you that. Even though they're third on the list for me, I typically like all tanks. And I'm interested. Yeah. I'm real interested to partner with one. Just because I don't want to play with one doesn't mean that I wouldn't want to do that. So it's kind of cool too. So
I got you, Brad.
There you go. So that dynamic, you put your vote in for Dire Lord. What would be number 2 to you?
For me, Warrior and Paladin sit fairly even.
Okay. Are they a distant? Like, are they probably won't play them, or are they pretty close to Dire Lord for you for an alt?
Oh, when I played a Warrior, he ended up being my Bazaar tune, just sitting in Bazaar selling my stuff. I'll be honest.
Do you remember his name?
Ares, after God of War.
Oh, okay. My first, here's a funny one. I had a Warrior early EQ, really early. I was a 2-handed Warrior.
Yeah.
I was horrible. My name, and I have no idea why, and everyone's like, why are you a Warrior? My name, for some reason, because I was super edgy, was Wicked Fist. People are like,
yeah, why aren't you a monk?
Name? Yeah, exactly. But I don't know why. I had a t-shirt made in the mall that said Wicked Fist with because we all had t-shirts of our character names. Oh man, I forget how much of a nerd I was sometimes, or am. Okay, so let's do Warrior first then. What's a word you'd use for them?
Probably
bank tune?
That meat shield, but as opposed to meat, it's more like a metal shield, I guess, which is self-explanatory, I feel.
All right.
Because of the high AC, the high
metal wall.
Yeah.
It's like a big metal wall. There you go. Okay. So then Paladin, they're metal, but they're not just standing there taking damage, right? They're doing a lot more. So what would you say for them?
Well, for them, it fits with the classic. It fits with lore. It's sort of traditional. It's, so I know inflate classic or lore, I guess. I'll let you pick.
Yeah, you got the lore in there. So let's go ahead and make that a bigger one. We've had a few people talk about the lore of Paladin, which is pretty cool, actually, because that's neat. When you design,
you mentioned classic too, which is kind of surprising to me. I'm kind of, in my mind, I would think Warrior is kind of the more classical thing, but it's pretty neat to see other people's perspective. When they think of tank, they think Paladin and not Warrior.
Yeah.
Or
just, I've even read the class. So it's funny because I think that there's 2 ways you can use the word classic. The way that we've talked about it here, the way that I've seen it used on Reddit, where classic, when you think classic tank, you think Warrior. But when you think classic class, you think Paladin. Because every game has, if that makes any sense. It's such an iconic, and so many games have made the Paladin a main, the whole Wrath of Lich King expansion, being a Paladin was just epic from even a story standpoint.
I think also Warrior's been a lot more of a raid tank than a group tank. So Paladins, Dire Lords, Shadow Knights, they've all had more exposure.
And I'll be honest, there was a lot of times in WoW, in particular, where Warriors were not a very good tank, so they were mostly DPS. So that's the funny thing too, because Warrior's always been can tank or DPS. They've kind of always, there's games where you play a warrior, like, I know it's not an MMO, but like Diablo, the warrior's really not a tank. It's like a barbarian, right? Like barbarian, and there's a lot of variations of warrior. So it is actually interesting that through my course of playing, I think of Warrior as a tank, but I think there might be a lot of people who don't think of Warrior as a tank. They might think of them as a two-handed melee fighter. Or someone said earlier, a gladiator. That was a great bring up. That might have been Hoye. I'm not sure. Apologize if it wasn't. But gladiator and warrior kind of go hand in hand in a lot of these games. So
yeah.
Awesome. Well, Fulgo, thank you very much, man. I appreciate you coming on. Thanks for your feedback. And we'll talk to you again for sure.
For sure.
All right, Def. Well, that wraps us up. We're a little past the overtime point here. Before we wrap up, I mean, what do you think of this? Warrior 17, Paladin 28.
I'm disappointed with that, but it got me thinking, man. Like, especially bringing up the fact of if Rampage is a thing in Pantheon. What gets my mind going is the raid environment. Like, how many tanks are you going to need to bring to a raid? Is it going to be just the main tank and off tank? Or can you have several warriors that are two-handed it up, or paladins that are two-handed it up? And when the boss mechanics are taking place, like, are you going to need a bunch of dire lords to be in the hitbox of that mob? Like, I don't know. It's got my brain going. Like, there could be a lot of useful things for several tanks in a raid. I don't know, man.
And I'm curious too. Like, you brought something up. Like, I could see a dire lord being great at being an off tank for when you don't need a tank. Like, if you had a 6-man group, I feel like the dire lord's gonna be able to do better DPS with a two-hander. And the interesting thing is warriors can use all weapons. So I'm very curious to see if you had a warrior who is just off tank and not necessarily needing to tank. I really am curious to see what kind of damage a warrior can do as a support in the group. It's interesting because I feel like dire lord, that's a lock. If they have to be the 6th member because you want to have a little bit more tankiness available to you, I feel like they're going to be able to provide some damage. I don't feel like Paladin's going to be able to, unless you're fighting undead. I feel like Paladin is so utility and then tank that their DPS is going to be a distant third. Whereas Warrior might be the middle of the DPS, the best tank, and then Dire Lord best DPS, but mid tank. I mean, we're obviously doing a lot of theory here. That's what we do. We talk. It's like sitting around the table drinking some beers with your friends, right? We could be completely wrong, but I think with what we've seen, that's kind of how I'm feeling about it.
Yeah, because I just can't see, raiding, and we don't know what the group composition is going to be for raiding just yet. But like, I can't see every warrior going to the raid wielding a sword and shield. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just kind of interesting. And someone brought up that point earlier about having 2 warriors in the group and doing the wall of shields thing. Well, what if you have a warrior that's just damaging, and then if the main tank goes down, maybe he equips his sword and shield, and during the fight, you have a warrior DPS and a main tank warrior that can do the wall of shields. I don't know how that works, of course, but again,
and while you were saying all that, I just got this crazy vision in my head. So imagine you're with a dire lord. The dire lord is not taking any damage. They're two-handing and attacking something, but they throw the bubble on a warrior so that X% of damage the warrior takes goes to the dire lord. Now the warrior's even beefier, and you just have to kind of spot heal the dire lord a little bit. Like, that would be a crazy mechanic.
That would be sick.
Right? Like, it's interesting. That's the kind of stuff I love, where you kind of come up with these different things. Like, the dire lord is not actually taking damage other than just taking some of the damage from the tank. Be really interesting if something like that would work. But it's interesting. So just a couple things here that people are saying here. Dan said he's not into the warriors. He says he feels like they're boring. But he did say he thinks that shield wall is going to be necessary for the end game raid. And then, people are talking about the dwarf with the mace racial, the human with a shield racial. And then Orsic Battle Fate actually said, I think it should be 2 main tanks, 3 off tanks, 5 healers, and the rest field with DPS and 24-man raid. That's interesting. How many raids that you know of did you take more than 2 tanks in the modern era of any game?
2, but in EverQuest it was several.
Yeah. So it would be nice to go back to that, because that was one of the hard things about why people didn't play tanks. Like, you were great for like dungeon runs when you were 1 out of 6 and they needed you and there weren't many of you, but it sucked for raiding when there were a ton of people and you had to play DPS. So it'd be really interesting if they go back to that format, which I would actually like. But Fragile said less tanks, more loot for him. Just take, you're playing a paladin, just bring Dire Lords with you. Only recruiting Dire Lords, full on plate tanks when you're recruiting. So, well, Def, it has been a pleasure, sir. I hope you had fun.
Thank you. Glad to be back. Glad to be here.
Yep. And guys in the chat, you guys have been amazing. Thank you to the moderators who have helped. Theric, Orsic, I know Omega's been in there. Thank you guys for approving some of the message that came through. Thank you guys for linking the Discord and getting people excited and answering questions. You guys are amazing for that. Thank you. Thank you to It's Prowlers. I don't think I gave you the shout out for the follow because we're in the middle of talk. So I thank you for that greatly. And thank you to the Pantheon community. Pantheon PlusYou only exists because of you. That's why we call it Pantheon PlusYou. It is super fun to have you guys come in here and chat with us. We've made a lot of friends. So please, if you haven't been on the show live, come in. You guys can see we super welcoming. You're allowed to have your opinion, even if it's different. Now, the only thing I will say is you guys need to do your research and you guys need to get it together. Warriors are king, right, Def?
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. Thank you for an awesome night. We will probably next week, if there's going to be a developer stream, we'll be covering the developer stream at the bi-weekly one. So I think we should see one next week. We'll find out soon, I hope. And we do have some exciting news coming up. We are going to be doing a developer interview with the Defend the Night team. We've moved the date a little bit, so I don't want to give the date out just yet, but it's official. We're going to have the main developers of that on and some of the team there coming on to talk about their game, MMOs in general. We're going to do a special show for that. It won't take the place of Pantheon PlusYou, but it's going to be a Pantheon PlusYou format. So you guys will be able to come on and talk with them, I believe. And then we're actually, we have a huge news, not just the website, but we have something else that I can't wait to tell you guys. It's going to be freaking incredible. And if you've been a fan of watching the show, you guys should all be super hyped. But I'm going to have to keep it a teaser because I'm not allowed to say it just yet. I don't have a date, but very soon we have something super cool coming. So keep up with us in Discord or Twitter. We will announce it the second we have official confirmation. So thank you to everybody. Thank you to Def. One more time, we're going to close it out. If you guys haven't seen it, Battle Axe is back. I'm going to close it out one more time with Battle Axe's new promo announcing that they're back, announcing Bat Live. So I'm going to close out the show with that. If you didn't get to see it, it's a pretty cool video. So here it is. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to chat. Thank you to the moderators. Thank you to everybody who came to the green room. Thank you to the Pantheon Plus community. Here's the Battle Axe promo.
Later, guys.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Minus, and today we continue the lead story, crippling the content community. Where is Battle Axe Theater? For the last 3 months, our reporters and investigators have searched high and wide. Yet unfortunately, we've come up with 0 leads. While rumors have been circulating of... Wait. Go ahead. You what? Ladies and gentlemen, it appears that in fact we have located the founding members of Battle Axe Theater. Let's go live now.
Best skills in the game. All right, man.
All right, man.
No.
We need to go. Now we're talking like fish. Or do fish don't talk?
Battle Axe Live returns March 2nd at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.